Hello, viewers, ladies and gentlemen. We thank you very much for this opportunity to join us for this afternoon's exchange. This is Yoruba Global 1000, and my name is Patrick Akimbola, and I'm president. In a moment, you're going to be meeting my vice president for the organization, Dr. Wumila Wal, and we do intend to continue with some dialogue we began a little while back. And we're looking forward to being able to have some active interaction from those of you that are able to join us. With that, let me now try to bring in Dr. Lawal.
Good afternoon, viewers. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. This is the Vice President of Yoruba Global 1000, the movement that is concerned about the self-determination, about the dignity, and about the prosperity of the indigenous Oduduwa descendants. We're here to complete the second part of why it is necessary, why it is imperative, why we must leave the evil contraption, the evil amalgamated, the forceful marriage of the Yoruba indigenous people with other ethnic extractions. So listen to my president, and from time to time, I'll be adding a little bit of my own experience into this afternoon's conversation. So come on, share this, send this to your friends, your neighbors, your family. If you can get President Tinubu, get him. Let him come and listen. Get Akpabio. Get even Kazim Shettima to come and listen. We will leave, whether it is convenient for the entire world or not. Yoruba, the Oduduwa descendants must exit. We must extricate ourselves from the evil, oppressive, intimidating, emasculating, encapsulating, evil one Nigeria. Thank you, friends. Thank you, my subscribers. This is your sister, your neighbor, your family, and your sibling in DNA. I share the same blood with you as a descendant of Oduduwa dynasty. Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Patrick.
Oh, thank you very much. I do appreciate that very affirming comments, introductory comments from our vice president. I just want to thank everyone that's already listening or is going to be listening in on this segment of this very important dialogue because we're actually at very, very troubling times, if you ask me. And this is one of the reasons why it has become necessary for us to embark on unusual measures, if you will, towards being able to justify and affirm our right to exist and the fact that we will not be snowed, intimidated, or steamrolled by any category of people, wherever it is they may come from. It's definitely really very unfortunate that we as children of from the Nigerian soil, and in particular children of Oduduwa ancestry, as we identify ourselves from the Southwest, some would call us the Yorubas. It's really sad that we are finding ourselves in the situation we are right now, where 60 million plus of us across the globe are essentially marooned from what should be building a truly stable, strong, prosperous African nation. It really pains me each time I think about where we are today, and even more so the fact that this is truly a global as well as a multi-generational assignment. I say that with all sense of responsibility and in affirming our commitment to what we now call a jailbreak. We refer to our exit from Nigeria as a jailbreak because that's truly what it has become. And when we look around the globe and see the hypocrisy of those who claim to want to protect our interests, I'm referring in particular to the multilateral and global organizations that claim to defend human rights and so on and so forth. And then I now look at the GMO and other evil agendas that are being executed across the continent in the plain view of everyone who should be exercising some oversight. It became obvious to us within the caucus of Yoruba Global that if we are to give a good account to future generations, then this would not stand. Now, I mention all this just as trying to provide a little context for why we're here today and essentially what it is that we are setting out to do as a non-profit organization. We did have a press conference, our first inaugural press conference on the 24th of September. Coincidentally, that was the same day the UN was officially acknowledging the Palestinians and their declaration of independence. And suffice it to say that if you do go online, you would see a copy of that particular press release. As I think this would create a perfect backdrop for being able to recognize the complexity of the Nigerian situation and how right now what we have there is what some would proverbially call the season of long knives. By that, I mean this is the time when all the opportunists and everyone else who has vested interests are coming out of the woodworks and they are letting us know that Nigeria is actually their personal property. Now, I'm saying all this really as a backdrop to what it is that we're going to be discussing here today. We did last week, I think that was Tuesday or Wednesday, embark on a process which we did describe as or titled 12 Reasons Why a Peaceful Dissolution of Nigeria Has Become Imperative. And so for today's program, just like we did the last week, our intention is really going to be to try to facilitate a dialogue rather than a monologue. And by that, what we intend to do is to share some general comments regarding each of the 12 reasons we have articulated or indicated in a way that we can systematically discuss them. And the whole idea here really is to even further enlighten the larger global audience about the intricacies and the complexities that are associated with what we have as Nigeria today and why all of the opportunism that is coming from different angles, beginning from the colonial settlers down to the imperialists, as well as even more especially the local traitors among us who have sold out for as long as most of us can remember, which has then created the precipitating event and a very, very dismal situation we have in the land today. So without much ado, I recall that we did go through the first 7 points of the 12 we were wanting to discuss. My hope here is that we'll be able to have the items for discussion posted so that we'll be in a position to take them one by one. And so from that standpoint, I will be beginning with number 8. So I'd just like to confirm, first of all, that you do have some sign of the fact that the 12 items have already been listed. I don't have a feedback loop here at this time, and so I'm still a little bit lost trying to determine who is following us and where we are. But could I get a sense as to whether or not it's been posted already? Let me go ahead with the eighth. Well, let me, for the purpose of clarity and just being able to encapsulate what we discussed previously, I'll just go ahead and just generally list all 12 items as earlier listed, and then we can then at least take it from there. Our discussion for today, however, is going to begin with number 8, which was the one we were going to start off with when we left off the last time. Now, here are the 12 items as listed. The first one is, number 1 is GMO agenda across the country. Number 2, president's illegitimacy, 2 levels, legal and personal. Number 3, Sharia as a legal shackle. Number 4, insecurity. Number 5, illegitimacy of governors as the next level of the presidency. Number 6, state capture and the corruption galore. And then number 7 is what we have here as the Chagoury factor. So these were 7 items that our vice president and myself discussed in a freewheeling, flexible, interactive context, where we were just kind of shedding light to these as major aspects of the entire quagmire that Nigeria today constitutes, which would have to be systematically understood and teased out as we begin to talk about a methodology or a pathway through which a truly peaceful phase, if you will, transition can occur, in which indigenous nations that actually own that land will be able to assert their right of ownership, as well as establish the role of colonial settlers in particular and their foreign collaborators. So there's obviously a clear dichotomy between indigenous nations in Nigeria as they stand today. Indigenous nations, that is, nations that actually own the land and traditionally lived on the land, and the colonial settlers being those that migrated through nomadic or whatever reasons to become part of the land, and through various clandestine ways gradually began to usurp the power and authority of those that own the land. So the situation we have right now cannot be understood or properly engaged with if one didn't understand that chasm, that dichotomy that has developed, where the true owners of the land are the ones now slaving in it without anything to show for it. So at some day, at a later date, I'll get to share some more of my own personal story and why this is an issue that has now become, for me, the most pressing life's challenge that I have to address. And I have had to indeed shelve some of the professional work I would rather be doing now based on my personal desires, to be able to look at nationhood itself and being able to have a safe space for future generations as the most exalting, the most glorifying, the most promising thing I can engage in. And I know that Dr. Lawal also has similar sentiments. And so, without much ado at this point, let me just go ahead and start with the 8th point that we have listed. Do I have a confirmation that the items are listed in the comment section, or are they not? Can I get a confirmation on that? So now let me talk about number 8. What I have as number 8 of the 12 items that we're going to discuss is Big Pharma, Bill Gates, World Bank, IMF, African Development Bank, and so on and so on. You get the drift. That drift there is essentially relating to globalists and the combination of global organizations that claim to protect our interests, who have essentially now become the shackles. So this is a very significant issue, and the hypocrisy that's represented by a lot of the large organizations to the evil activities of globalists is something that has obviously had us very, really very sad in terms of just the blatant hypocrisy in 2025, and the fact that a lot of our own colleagues and so-called heads of governments and influencers, hook, line, and sinker, have bought into this very sad genocidal trend, which has then precipitated even more anxiety, more pain, more misery for our people. The challenges the AES states are facing right now, trying to tackle some of these issues, are obviously within plain view. And when you look at Nigeria in particular, and the way Nigeria has constituted itself as the arrowhead of opposing the progressive forces across the continent, then you really can understand why, for us, number 8 is one that we cannot ignore. Some of you will probably recall some of the unprintable words I've used to describe the previous president of the African Development Bank, Dr. Adesina, who happens to be a Yoruba man like myself. And, you know, I really say that really very saddened, because the hypocrisy that is represented by all of the cheerleaders and all of the other people who have ignored his brazen betrayal of those Omoluabi values that a lot of us Yorubas grew up with is unpardonable. And, you know, in Yoruba culture, there are a whole lot of things that are elevated beyond money. And when I say that, I really say that with all sense of seriousness. Character and integrity happen to be major pillars that we look at in being able to assess any individual. And in a situation as we have right now, where an institution as high profile as the African Development Bank, the fact that an institution as prominent would get involved in the types of devious activities which involve direct Nigerian government officials and Bill Gates, all just kind of really essentially railroading an entire 240 million population on a GMO agenda without the required stakeholder involvement, assaults our sensibilities. It insults us, especially those of us who are supposed to be the educated ones. And so I mention all this to explain to you why Big Pharma itself, as the very repulsive energy coming into our space at this time, has to be resisted, and we will resist. So without much ado about that, let me just kind of allow our vice president to say a few words from the standpoint of some of what has been her own direct involvement and experience. Over to you, Dr. Lawal. We don't have a volume. Oh, I cannot hear you. I cannot hear you. The volume is still down. Yes.
I'm not in the studio. I'm not in the studio.
Okay.
Bring me to the studio.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Go ahead now.
Okay. authentic Yoruba people. And Yomi, you have had the number 8 reason, which is imperative, which is crucial, essential, important, that you as a Yoruba indigenous individual must consider. We have over 240 million in Nigeria. We have been growing our seeds genetically, organically. And all of a sudden, one of us, unfortunately, is supposed to be a Yoruba man with so much to give to his people. But what did he do? He conspired, he colluded with Mr. Money Misroad, Bill Gates, and his foundation to bring you, not only you Yoruba indigenous people, but all other extractions in Nigeria, to bring us GMO. My friends, authentic Yoruba people, and other extractions listening to me, Nigeria do not have standard hospital to take care of ordinary cold, ordinary headache. Now, GMO is being brought to us by force, by fire. They didn't consult us. Bill Gates just felt like he's a billionaire. He can do whatever he damned please. And the next so-called AI, whatever technology he wants to use or he wants to call it, is the GMO, genetically modified organisms. These are seeds that are produced in the laboratory. Now that it's brought to our country, to Nigeria, it's going to affect the ecological nature of our land. Anywhere in the Yoruba land, when you drop a seed of corn, in the next 2 weeks, it will start growing. I don't care where you put it, it will grow. Genetically modified organism will mess up our ecosystem. When it has messed up the ecosystem and it cannot replicate itself normally, like the God intended it to be, we now consume it, and it starts to disrupt, to detangle us from the normal process of biological process. Young women, young men will start eating this. Some of them will lose their spermatozoa or become watery. The young ladies may find it difficult to even get pregnant, or when they get pregnant, they have children with one leg, one arm, one eye, like Agent Orange that was used in Vietnam War. But the saddest part of it, my people, is that the man that allowed this to happen is none other than a Yoruba man. I may not want to call him the name I want to call him on this, but he knows the name. And the name is called Omali. It's the Yoruba word for a man, or a woman for that matter, who will sell his own inheritance, his own heritage to a foreigner because of money or position or title or whatever. So, my people, I wish I could speak to you the way I wanted to, because the YouTube may not permit me to speak that way. We have, oh God, I have to use that word bastard. For some of these indigenous Yorubas and some in other extractions, there are some among the Igbos too, some among the Akwa Ibom, some among the Awusas, among the Jaws, among the Chief, among the Benue, among the Plateau, in that environment, who will prefer to have GMO because their mouth has been sealed with $10 million, 2.5 billion from Bill Gates. Why they are colluding and complicit in this disastrous situation, they are telling you to shut up. They are telling you to keep quiet. They are telling you GMO is just as good as the organic that God provided. And these are the problems that we are going to have if we do not start telling the whole world and taking Bill Gates and the rest of his cohorts to the International Criminal Court. Because this is a criminal situation where one person will wake up one day and want to decimate over 240 million. Now let me remind you, this same GMO was taken to South Africa over 2 decades ago. When Bill Gates realized that he succeeded there, he took it about 12 years ago to Kenya. He realized that he could get away with it. And now it's coming to the most populous African nation, Nigeria, a nation that has been embedded under encapsulation, under amalgamation, going through all kinds of genocidal activities, egregious activities, hegemonic governance, where even the government are turning their face away from the aberration that is happening in our land. My people, wake up. Bill Gates is not a philanthropist. Come out of your coma. Bill Gates is not an altruistic individual. Here is a man that is demented spiritually, mentally, and is ready to kill anybody, anywhere with his GMO seeds. My people, do not say I do not want us. Do not say that my mouth is too big. I have to do this so that our unborn heritage will not cost us tomorrow, that we left this situation unsolved. We must not agree to Bill Gates, the Bayer, the Monsantos, and our own indigenous disgraceful element called Akinwumi Adesina. I will not let go of Professor of NAFDAC, a director who should be in charge of ensuring that we have good drugs, good seeds, but she's not doing that. And that is Mrs. Mojisola Adeyeye. You are complicit. And I'm not sure if you are going to be forgiven for wanting to kill your people because you have been bribed, you have been promised, or your husband has been promised some position, some title, or some money. I don't care what they gave you. But if your compromise is going to lead to the death of my people, the whole world will hear it. And you also might find yourself at Hague, the International Criminal Court of Justice. I will not let this slide. I will not allow you to get away with blue murder. I will not. Not on my watch. Not when I have breath in my lungs. Will I tolerate you to bring GMO, genetically modified organism that is killing already in South Africa, in Kenya, but nobody stood up to you. I will stand up to you, Mrs. Mojisola Adeyeye, the director of NAFDAC. I will stand up to you, Mr. Doctor, Professor, or whatever you call yourself, Akinwumi Adesina of African Development Bank. I know that one of the reasons that you are there is because Bill Gates mysteriously, illegally got you that position. But you are not going to get away with this GMO issue. You are going to go, you will find yourself in the International Criminal Court. You will have to go and explain why will you deliberately bring a poisonous seed to your country that is already enjoying organic seed. You are going to meet us there, and that is not the end of it. But I'll go back to Dr. Patrick to continue with this session. I am not going to let you go scot-free. If the last breath in my lungs is to take all of you, drag all of you to International Criminal Court, you are all criminals. People without godly souls, no moral ethos. You are wicked, but you're not going to get away with it. I will not allow you to get away with it. Thank you, Dr. Patrick. Let's move on.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lawal. I do want to, at this point, reintroduce Dr. Lawal to our global audience, with every sense of appreciation and respect. The zeal, the passion, the commitment, the singular focus that she has demonstrated, the empathy that she has demonstrated on these issues in the last couple of years that both of us have been involved with the larger struggle, explain the fact that we have a non-profit organization by the name of Yoruba Global 1000 today. If you observe both of us in terms of our individual personalities, you can tell that she's definitely much more passionate and vocal about these issues than I could ever be. And against that background, she already has over 400 YouTube videos, all online today, singularly devoted to her own tenacity. You can't beat that. That's inspiring, and that for me is part of what keeps me awake in those unusual times of the night when I'm looking at this and recognizing the seriousness. She recognizes the fact that we're all here just for a fixed amount of time, and you can see that her commitment is to be able to make sure that those results, that is our jailbreak, will not wait until the next generation. So again, I just wanted to use this opportunity to thank her again and appreciate the fact that she has stood strong, even as a lot of people were wavering and not too sure how they were going to get involved. Thank you very much, Dr. Lawal.
Thank
Now,
you.
this whole discussion about big pharma and just the overall global conspiracy against indigenous peoples, as represented by what has happened with GMO and Bill Gates' genetic insecticide blankets and all other funny things aimed at reducing the African population, is one of the reasons why for our upcoming independent Yoruba nation, we have actually listed GMO, TB, and SAMOA. Now, I'm mentioning that because number 8 speaks about GMO, number 9 speaks about TB, while number 10 is going to be discussing SAMOA. All three are very related, and all three are very relevant to us as children of Odua, Yoruba, people of Yoruba ancestry, because all three of them speak to values that we very much cherish, and any effort at our jailbreak will have to be able to establish these as minimum prerequisites that would have to be fulfilled. Let me state that again. I'm referring to number 8, which is Big Pharma, Bill Gates, World Bank, IMF, African Development Bank, globalists, which is number 8. I'm talking about TB, that is tuberculosis, and that's number 9, which is the one we're going to discuss next, which is cattle grazing as a lifestyle across the entire country. That's what TB, tuberculosis, is. And that's why Nigeria is the global capital of TB, despite the fact that this is not a condition that anyone in the world should have to have today. But again, I mentioned this because which is number 9. We'll discuss number 9. There's quite a lot that has to be revealed about number 9, the whole tuberculosis conundrum. Because one of the things it does is to expose the evil hypocrisy that characterize the larger part of the Nigerian leadership. When you look at Dr. Lawal and myself, closing in on 70 years of age, and the amount of time we have spent in that land, and the types of opportunities we have had, and then you look at where we are today, where cattle are still roaming even the federal capital, even right across from the airport. In the median coming out of the airport are cows roaming in Nigeria. So that's disgusting. But it's disgusting, but it's been allowed because we Nigerians essentially have ended up creating that crime, willfully or unwillfully. They have ended up creating that crime scene by choices that they make. 10,000 cows are consumed in the southwestern part of Nigeria every day. So again, I'm still talking about tuberculosis now. 10,000 cows. But consider for a moment the fact that a lot of these cows have just essentially walked. There's no system whatsoever aimed at preventing TB as a burden among the people. A couple of years ago, we did set up a special effort aimed at addressing this problem. And when I look at some of my records, I can see the names of some of the people we invited to those initial meetings. And this was supposed to be a very serious initiative involving Yorubas from different parts of the globe, whereby we were trying to address the TB problem with very significant statistics that showed the burden of the disease and the fact that there was things that could be done about it. But Nigerian elders don't want the TB problem addressed because a whole lot of them are benefiting from it. So I'm not going to expatiate on that extensively at this point, but just the idea of a people watching their own people die of a condition that is preventable, and you then see, suffice it to say that in a decent, in any decent country, that cannot be allowed. And so when we talk about our jailbreak and the fact that tuberculosis as lifestyle among our people will not be part of an independent Yoruba nation, it is in that context. Let me allow Dr. Lawal chip in here before I go on to the next one quickly.
Hello, my people. This TB issue is about to bring tears to my eyes. It's about to do that because as a kid, I suffered asthma. It was a terrible disease, terrible sickness. I didn't think I was going to survive till age 10. But my mother, a very caring, loving mother, did everything humanly possible to make sure that that asthma did not take me away. Now, in Nigeria, a country that other African nations are looking up to, not only in population, but thinking that we have the human resource, human asset in Nigeria alone. If you go to Ekiti and Ondo State in the Yoruba enclave, you have more than 5 million PhDs, educated people, the stalwart of the country in that two states alone, Ondo and Ekiti. Almost everybody has a double master's or a PhD. And this set of people allowed cows not only roaming in their own city or state, but all over Nigeria, spreading a disease that is preventable. Tuberculosis is not an easy disease, but it is preventable. And our compromised, miseducated elite, hegemonic governance going on in Nigeria does not want to address this issue. Meanwhile, a lifespan somewhere in Japan, Australia, and some other civilized society. Civilized society in the sense that they mind the lives of their people. That is humanity. But in Nigeria, as at now, because the Fulanese are the ones in charge of these cows, the so-called government is afraid of them. And they do not want to make a law that will tell them to take these cows to a ranch. They want to use the herders to clash with the farmers, using their cow to destroy millions of the farmers' crop. But worse than that is the sickness. Nigerians now are supposed to be the richest, but we are the second poorest nation in the world. Nigeria, with all our oil, our bauxite, our bitumen, our precious stones, our ore, our rubber plantation, everything is just sitting dead duck because we have a government that only believes in self and self and self alone. They do not care. That's why the lifespan, as indicated by the World Health Organization in Nigeria, is less than 60. By the time somebody in Nigeria consuming this cow, going through the dust, the pollution, they die by age 55, 56. If they are lucky, they will cross 60. And then they will develop cancer of the lungs, cancer of this, cancer of that. In a civilized society, that will never happen. America produces over 10 million tons of chicken, goat, and cow. I never saw a cow on the street of America. And I've been in America for over 47 years. I never saw a goat or a chicken walking in the street. But in my dear country, in a country that we are supposed to have intelligentias, we are supposed to have educated people, they are miseducated. They have become morons. They have become imbeciles. They have become stupid. And they have become godless. They have no fear, no moral ethos. And they expect the citizenry. They've realized that they are gullible. They have no money to eat, to take care of themselves. So suck it in. Take it in their stride and shut up their mouth. But I have news for you. I have your names. Starting from the President of the United States of Nigeria, from the Republic of Nigeria, from the kangaroo country that you have turned Nigeria to. You will meet me at the International Criminal Court. I will take all of you there. The genocide you want to perpetrate in Nigeria, it will not happen on my watch. I will take you there. So viewers, you have to go to YG1K, YG1K.org. Go and donate because I need a lawyer, an international lawyer, that will help me take all these bastards to the International Criminal Court. I will take you if it is the last thing I do before I leave this earth. You are killing innocent people. People you consider naive or you think they are chicken. You can kill them anyhow. You are joking. You are joking. I have families, friends, neighbors that they don't know anything about what you are doing. But I know, and I'm not going to let you get away with it. You are not going to kill my people with tuberculosis and all other preventable human diseases. I am not. Mosquito is still riding in Nigeria because of these cows going all about. Our gutters not being cleaned. No gutters, nothing to safeguard when there's a flood. A little bit of rain in Nigeria, houses are flooded. Mosquitoes are biting here and there, causing malaria. And there's not even good medications. infiltrated medications, contaminated medications. And that is why a woman like Mrs. Mojisola, Professor Mojisola, you will explain tire. When you get to International Criminal Court, you will tell what your position is as a director of NAFDAC that should be in charge of drugs in Nigeria, allowing cows all over to be spreading all kinds of diseases and for human consumption and get into more problems. You are not going to get away with it. Read my lips. You are going to International Criminal Court. That is where you belong. Where people that are more powerful than your president, people that are more powerful than your Boko Haram, they will face the rule of law. There's no rule of law in Nigeria. One law is for the rich, the other one is for the masses like me. People that have no money, no position, no title. They are not senators. Their grandfather is not a billionaire or millionaire. But we have blood and we have a voice. And somebody will hear that voice. That is where I stand. They are not going to get away with it. Bill Gates will not get away with it. SAMOA will not get away with it. Beya will not get away with it. Monsanto will not get away with it. Not on my watch. Thank you. Dr. Patrick.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lawal. I suffice it to say that the seriousness of these issues cannot be overstated. And without much ado, let me just swing on straight away to the 10th one, which is the SAMOA. What is the SAMOA? Basically, you know, while the details of whatever it was that were the backdoor opaque deals that took place involving the Nigerian government and the globalists who were very particular about lifestyle change in Nigeria and indeed most of Africa. The preoccupation of those that are in charge was the money. And so they didn't even think about the long-term implications or the cultural sensibilities that were associated with a lifestyle. So the type of sweeping lifestyle modifications that they were foisting on an entire 240 million population. What is clear, though, is the fact that money changed hands. And that 240 billion is what we hear. As you can imagine, among African leaders, leaders in quote, being the opportunists that they are, with that kind of money, a lot of them will kill their mama if they had to. So I'm saying this to explain to you why an independent Yoruba nation rejects the SAMOA deal entered into by the present government in all its ramifications. And by implications, it means that even one Nigerians who are signatories to that particular whatever it's agreement have to recognize that it is Nigerians and those Nigerians who are compatible with the lifestyle modifications that are implied by SAMOA that would end up being those that will be impacted by those decisions. So I mentioned this because all three, GMO, TB, and SAMOA, they all hang together. They hang together because all of the so-called billionaires in Nigeria today, I would assume, have already acquiesced to the idea of these three stigmas being part of their own reality in whatever country they belong to. And so when you think about 60,000 plus children of Odua and the values that we represent, the fact that we have a future ahead of us, the fact that we are already smart enough to recognize the eugenic and other criminal considerations that have informed some of these policies and those selling them. And even more so, the fact that we are finding out now, only within the last couple of months, that a lot of those international organizations, Amnesty International, and so on, whose name recognition has them like organizations that will look out for the poor man. There's a whole lot that we are learning in Yoruba Global right now that has brought us to the new realization that nobody is going to prevent our extermination if we don't stand up for ourselves. Let me state that again. Some of what we have learned in the last, I would say probably in the last 11, 12 months, since we have been communicating with a whole bunch of different individuals, governmental heads, institutional heads, those that are supposed to be responsible for the welfare of the vulnerable, of indigenous populations, those that mouth their credentials as protecting the weak, protecting the small, protecting the disempowered. We have come to a new revelation with regards to how much hypocrisy lurks in these circles. And this is one of the reasons why we are adopting a different attitude, a different strategy towards our jailbreak, because we recognize now that our jailbreak is going to really depend more on our own tenacity and capacity to be able to follow through and capacity to be able to stand, rather than the idea of thinking that there's some foreign power anywhere that is going to look out for us. So it was just very important for me to be able to have us at least have some sense of consolidation with regards to our resolve and what brought us to having that resolve. Those of you who still remember what happened with the Rwanda genocide will recall how there were a whole lot of organizations that had the opportunity to prevent it, and they willfully abandoned those responsibilities. And so when you see what's going on in Nigeria right now, and all of the interest groups huffing and puffing about protecting Nigeria, the truth of the matter is that no one there is really about protecting Nigeria. Not the government, not any of the foreign nations that are now claiming that they are the ones that are going to protect the Nigerian government. The truth of the matter is that none of those who are trying to defend the Nigerian government can define either a Nigerian or identify one. So this is usually the litmus test that we throw up at those that want to die in order to keep Nigeria. We remind them of the fact that none of them has been able to identify a Nigerian or define one. So what do we mean by that? We're saying that there are no shared interests or characteristics or values that would establish somebody as a Nigerian. So if you had a terrorist right here and you also had somebody else who is Yoruba and claims to occupy that same geographic space, for all practical purposes, you could look at both of them as being interchangeable. So it is that grim reality that has in part informed us in our commitment that it's going to be this jailbreak or nothing. And so I've just used that to conclude on number 10 of our 12 items, justifying our jailbreak. Let me now go on quickly to well, I don't know. Let me have Dr. Lawal if she has any comments about the whole SAMOA thing before we go on to the 11th one.
My people, Dr. Patrick has already enunciated on this SAMOA thing. These are people that will have called globalists, neo-colonialists. They are always looking for opportunity to add a leg in every African nation. Not only because they like Africans, but they see us as cows, as chicken they can take advantage of. But guess what? They must be joking. Because Africans, we have common sense. We have moral ethos. Yes, maybe one or two of us or few of us may have derailed from our Omoluabi ethos. But many of us still believe that dignity, integrity overweigh money, overweigh title, overweigh position. We are people of conscience. Spiritually, we are connected to the power source of God. And what God does not like, we do not dare to do it. And that is the difference between us and the SAMOA evil individuals, that they are trying to use a blanket to cover our eyes and bring all kinds of aberration and abomination to us. We are not going to take it from them. I know they have money, they have clout in the circle of influence. They can do and undo. But where we stand, we have God on our side, and He's going to fight this battle with just a little help from us. What is the help? To start shouting, raising our voices, and going to different institutions and countries that actually believe in moral ethos. We are not going to take it lying down. We are not stupid in Africa, and the Yoruba descendants of Oduduwa, we are one of the smartest people on the face of the earth. We are endowed with so much potential that the whole world recognizes it, and they knew they cannot toy with our destiny. We will not allow them. As far as I'm concerned, Samoa, I'm in the same trouser with you. You too will meet me, your president, your CEO, or whoever. Take Bill Gates with you. You will meet me at the International Criminal Court. You are all criminals. Professionally, you are criminals. As human beings, you are evil. And God is going to meet you at the end of the sentinel. That's what I have to say. For now, back to you, Dr. Patrick.
Thank you very much. We will discuss the 11th and the 12th together. And I say we'll discuss them together because they are very related. Number 11 is titled Judiciary for Sale. And number 12 is Failed State Profile. So we're going to talk about both of those together. What are we saying here? You know, if you have a country such as what we have in Nigeria today, where even the origin of President Tinubu's ascension into the office has already been established to have been a fraud. So this is a very significant point when we say the initial backdrop to even the current regime as informed by 2023 election was a fraud. So, and even the president himself has been honest enough to admit it to those who were trying to hold him accountable, that he got this one on his own terms, and that to that extent, everyone is bought and paid for. This is very significant. This is really very significant because the judiciary is supposed to be the last, I don't know how they call it now, but suffice it to say that it's supposed to be the restraint that would prevent an executive or a legislature from going haywire. But when we have a situation where what's happening now with Nnamdi Kanu, for instance, with George Omotosho, who is denying Kanu making a final, it's preventing him from being able to have his final statements to round up his case. I mean, that I'm not a lawyer, but obviously that sounds like Law 101. And the idea that a country as large as 240 million, with the kind of profile that Kanu's case has already acquired, would be able to open its eyes and violate due process law, due process as in any decent environment. I shudder at just the idea that there are professionals in that environment today who are still defending that system. And, you know, I really kind of do feel very strongly about this because when I listen to some of my own colleagues, former colleagues, those that I had the pleasure of interacting with very closely in professional and private circles during my decade stint returning to Nigeria 2003 right through to 2014, I am shocked because it's really almost as if there is a complete Jekyll and Hyde personality that is demonstrated. So while they are in Nigeria and they are dealing with Nigerians, all forms of crudity and obscene behavior is acceptable. But when they have to interact with the larger global community, they think that it's possible to just change and try to act decently. I'm mentioning this because this is tied to the judiciary for sale as well as the failed state profile. I want you to all go back to looking at where Nigeria was, at least from 1960, 65 years up till this moment, and ask yourself if things have ever been this bad, if things have ever been so openly out of order, and the larger percentage of those who are supposed to have some reason have somehow acquiesced and agreed that, well, it's bad, but there's nothing we can do about it. So again, I'm coming back to a failed state profile, as well as a judiciary that is no longer worth anything. Right at this time, for instance, we cannot establish where did Buhari's regime finish and where did Tinubu start. There are still common secrets as to at what point did a Buhari double begin to operate, and at what point did that part of the show come to an end. Nigerians continue to treat other people across the globe as if they are fools. See, but all of this, the optics of even having a country where people allow stuff like this to go on, and there's no sense of decorum, there's no sense of self-censure, there's no sense of sensibilities associated with decency that will stand international muster. That's what Dr. Lawal, myself, and the rest of Yoruba Global 1000 resists. And that's the reason why we made up our minds that irrespective of the different internal oppositions among the so-called Yoruba elite, who would rather keep all of us in chains for the next generation, we made up our mind that our own children are not going to continue with these same shackles around their necks. I'll have Dr. Lawal react to this, and then I'll make some closing comments as we round up our dialogue today. My hope is going to be that this will all at least create the backdrop around which we'll be able to have more enriching and interactive discussions in the future. Dr. Lawal.
Thank you, Dr. Patrick. My people, Yoruba descendants, Oduduwa descendants, authentic children of Oduduwa. It is a sad, sad occurrence to know that Nigeria, at this present moment, do not have what is called the rule of law. The legislature, the upper house of the assembly, they are rubber stamp. Whatever the present government, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu says, it goes. The number 3 man in the country, God's will, Akpabio. You have sold God's will, Akpabio. If anybody knows him, let him hear this. You do not care about 240 million people, but you are licking the ass of one man. You have sold your soul. You have sold your soul as the number 3 man in that country. And that is why all kinds of useless policies are being supported. You supported rubbishing elected governor in Rivers because President Tinubu wants foolish addict Wike to release the sets to him. Can you see yourself? Because of Mr. President, Mr. Fabio, you relinquish, you agreed for the president to rubbish and take away democratically elected governor for 6 months. Judiciary, you are supposed to be the button of justice. Unfortunately, you have sold your soul too. You go for the highest bidder. And I'm so ashamed that at this present moment, a woman, a mother, and probably a grandmother like myself is the Chief Justice of the Federation. Justice Visikat, Justice Visikat Kokeriakum. You need to go back to God and ask, what is your mission as a Justice of the Federation? You are sitting on the highest seat of the judicial sector, and I have not seen any law pass that will favor 240 million. Already you knew that Nnamdi Kanu had no case to answer. But because President Tinubu, the Janjaweed of the North, the Boko Haram of the North, the Saldana of the North, the Sultan Emir, the Ado Bayero, the Lamido Sanusi, wanted this man pummeled to the ground. You all refuse to let him go. You all refuse to let justice stand. And you play dishonorable justice of the Federation. Justice Visikat. Look at me. I'm a Yoruba woman like you. I'm a mother, but I'm a different mother. I'm a mother that will not allow any person to take a knife across somebody else's head. Not to talk of my own child. But you are allowing the lack of rule of law in Nigeria to be the mainstay. You are going to pay for it. I am not going to do anything to you, but I have somebody who will bash you. And that is the Almighty God. You are a Muslim. You call Allah. And Allah asks you to do all these injustices. You will meet my Jesus. So Jesus is the one that I subscribe to. And he does not like ugly. You are ugly in your judgment. You are deceptive. As smart as you have become a miseducated judge. A miseducated judge. A pariah. And a woman without moral or empathy. You have no Omoluabi ethos. You are wicked. And God, the Almighty God, the all-knowing God, will meet you at the Sentinel. The rest of you, either you are a Yoruba, an Igbo, Akwa Ibom, Fulani, Hausa, that continue to perpetrate injustice, killing innocent people, killing beleaguered people, killing the poor and the needy. I call by the word of God. I call on Job 22, verse 28. He mandated me to say something, and it shall be established. Today, I decree and I declare, all of you that are perpetrating this injustice in that land, before the Oduduwa children get out of you, I said, let the Almighty begin to start pummeling you to the ground.
Amen.
Pummel you, pummel your children, your wife, your husband, and all the money that you have stolen.
Amen.
You will go there and you find that they are burned to ashes. God has done it before. I don't like using this example, but that's the only example that is available. Albert Wigway, the owner of a bank, is probably worth over 30 billion. When his plane came down with 5 other people, his wife, a son, a friend, and 2 pilots. In some cases, you can still find their body rush them. But in God's infinite power. Mr. Abatwige, may he rest in peace, was born to ashes. Ashes! That is the power of the God that I believe in. Therefore, Risikat, Kekereakun, Justice Risikat, dishonorable justice of Nigeria, you will meet God. You and your deceptive cohorts, agents of Baba Tinubu, agents of the president, agents of Boko Haram, and the Fulani useless, lazy saboteurs and traitors. God is going to send down his onslaught. Onslaught of the Almighty God will meet you at your doorstep, and so shall it be, because I have been asked to decree. I have just decreed you will not go scot-free. The hands of God, the powerful, sure justice hands of God will pummel you to the ground by the power and the name of my Lord Jesus Christ, and so shall it be.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you. Over to you, Dr. Patrick.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Dr. Lawal. I just want to thank everyone who has been patient enough to listen to us on this short follow-up session where we went through the rest of the 12 reasons we're adducing for a needed peaceful dissolution of Nigeria. A lot of us who grew up with a lot of desire and good dreams about what we wanted our retirement life to be in Nigeria now find ourselves marooned at a crossroads where we are looking at even our own children. And a lot of our children cannot affirm or appropriate the resources and the capacities that some of us have generated through our individual families, which is supposed to result in a multi-generational transfer of wealth and capacity. Let me state that again, because sometimes when you see people like Dr. Lawal and myself getting very emotional or passionate about what it is that we're doing, it is easy for you to just assume that these are just sentimental considerations. But it is our realization of the fact that this is truly a multi-generational mission. And the fact that we are aware of how our own parents also served the Fulanis at one level or the other, which has ended up having an impact on even the trajectory of our own careers. I mentioned that usually when I mention that with a little bit of emotion, because my own dad actually overnight drove through the night when we had to hurriedly leave Bauchi in 1966. It was a night trip that took us out of Bauchi when the massacre of the Igbos began. And what happened as a result of all of that was that my dad ended up joining the Federal Ministry of Education, but he ended up at the back of the line because all of the years he had lived in Bauchi as a teacher at Bauchi Teachers Training College did not count. He was a contract worker in his own country. And so even though he ended up retiring as a director of education within the Federal Ministry of Education, that made the difference between someone who might have ended up being a PAMSEC or a minister or a commissioner. And in the same way, I have a lot of evidence of other colleagues and folks from the Southwest who essentially ended up living on their knees instead of living on their feet as full-fledged human beings, because somehow they had been subjugated by the environment itself and those that were in control of it. So this is what our jailbreak is all about. It is the institutional memory and recollection that we have of what has gone down up till now, and the fact that some are intent on maintaining that status quo. You will agree with me that with the amount of education, exposure, experience, and commitment that we have to our own people, we would really be remiss if we allowed those types of oppressors to end up overruling or overwhelming or intimidating or cowing us. So I just want to thank everyone who's been able to listen or will be listening, and to let you know that our commitment to freeing our people is not reconcilable. There will be no going back on it. And anyone who is familiar with what those Omoluabi ethos really mean, 40 of them, at least 40 of them, based on the Mr. Babalola's book, Omoluabi. You can Google it and try to get a sense of what it is we're talking about. A lot of times when we talk about Omoluabi, the typical Yoruba really doesn't even understand what it means in its full sense. They think it's just somebody that's cool-headed and calm. But by the time you look at the 40 different traits or characteristics that is supposed to result in what Babalola calls a complete human being. Yes, that's how Babalola calls the Omoluabi, a complete human being. By the time you look at those 40 characteristics and what it makes as a composite of an individual, you'll be able to recognize why someone like Dr. Lawal or someone like myself are passionate about insisting that our jailbreak will not be compromised, and that our children have a responsibility to be able to continue with the same vigor with which we have established this organization and plan to grow it. I want to thank everyone again for this opportunity. Of course, we're just getting started, and so we have not had the opportunity to be able to take questions from you and respond to them directly. But like the saying goes, the 100-mile journey usually begins with the first step. And so from the standpoint of Yoruba Global, we have begun, and our commitment is to be able to assure that our jailbreak is total and it is uplifting. Ẹ jẹ́ kí n fi Yorùbá parí ètò ìní. Mo dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ gbogbo ẹ̀yin tẹ́ darapọ̀ mọ́ wa o. Ó tọ́ ọbẹ̀ ó ní pé kò sẹ́ni tó máa gbà wá, àwa la máa gbára wa. Àwọn tó dẹ̀ jẹ́ àgbà láàrin wa tí wọ́n ti fi ara wọn hàn sìn wípé àwọn ò fẹ́ ìlọsíwájú gbogbo wa bíi àwọn ẹ̀yà kan náà. A gbọ́dọ̀ yára wa ń brain ni láti mọ̀ pé ìjà òmìnira yìí a gbọ́dọ̀ move ẹ̀ sí next level ni tá a bá really fẹ́ gba òmìnira yẹn. Mo dúpẹ́ púpọ̀ lọ́wọ́ gbogbo yín o. Dr. Lawal, ẹ ṣé púpọ̀. Inú mi dùn pé a l'opportunity láti ṣe session ní lágbára Ọlọ́run in another couple of days. A tún schedule another session tí a fi tún l'opportunity láti tún gbé additional issues wá títí gbogbo wa fi lè jọ máa bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí darapọ̀ lórí bá a ṣe máa gbára wa lẹ̀ lọ́wọ́ gbogbo àwọn tí wọ́n sọ wá di bá a ṣe rí lẹ́nìí. Mo dúpẹ́ púpọ̀ o. Ẹ ṣé púpọ̀. Dr. Lawal, I thank you again very much, and
thank you.
Everyone who has been part of this session this afternoon. We'll be looking forward to your support and your encouragement and ideas that you may have about moving this process forward. We are truly a rich, sophisticated people, and this is the reason why we leave no stones unturned in being able to get the world to realize that those that represent Yorubas in that space today are not they're not the right ambassadors, and that the true Yorubas of character and of capacity will ultimately take charge at the point where our independence becomes a reality. Thank you very much. You have a good day now, or a good night, wherever it is that you are. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you. And God bless you all. Bye.